Of course, we're bringing you both sides of the story. Nick Wolny covers LGBTQ topics for Fortune, Business Insider, and others, and we are going to hear from him in just a minute. But I want to start with Pastor Mike Stone, who is running for president of the Southern Baptist Convention. Thank you so much for joining us, Pastor. I think I know the answer, but who is right and who is wrong?
Well, absolutely. The Catholic religion, which views Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence as an anti-Catholic hate group, they are certainly in the right from a moral and just a cultural perspective.
Okay, but to defend them, they say flat out, we do not mock Catholic nuns. What would you say to that?
I would say that the 62 million Catholics who make up roughly 20% of the American population should be the ones to decide whether they feel they've been offended or not by these drag queens dressing up as nuns and very obviously mocking not only the Roman Catholic religion, but Christianity, even in a broader sense.
Offended or not, Pastor, isn't it something that we should forgive and include regardless of whether or not we're offended?
Well, the reality is this is just the latest in the over-secularization of the American culture. I wonder why families can't just go to a baseball game and watch a baseball game, or go to a coffee shop and buy a cup of coffee, or go to a department store and buy their goods. Why this very small percentage of the American population has to continually push these things into the face of the American people.
So while I may agree with you, to play devil's advocate, isn't that the same as Clayton Kershaw touting his beliefs as someone who is very faithful and doesn't agree with some parts of this group?
Yeah, the reality is this is a manufactured crisis because the LA Dodgers in this case, they're the ones who created this and really just shoving it in the face of their fans. I think about the fact there are not only around 62 million Catholics in the United States, around 11 million of those live in California, and 5 million of them live in the greater Los Angeles area. Contrast that with about 1.6 million, according to UCLA Law School and the research that they've done, around 1.6 million that would consider themselves transgender in the United States. It just seems like it's bad business, as well as just, I think it is just greatly offensive to those who are from the religious community.
Okay, we see a statement there from the Dodgers that I'm curious as your true reaction as the flip-flopping. So first and foremost, they made the decision to have the group, and then they uninvited them or disinvited them, and then they invited them back. Is that doing more damage than good? Do you just stick with your decision and go with it, or do you do this pandering back and forth?
Well, I think it's just a revelation of the fact that these groups are far from marginalized groups in the United States culture today. They're actually the ones that seem to be in control and in power. I was reading just today an article in USA Today that calls people who hold my view the bad guys, even villains, and they call these drag queen nuns a marginalized group that are being hurt by people in power. And yet you see this very small group that represents an even smaller part of the American population is able to be almost the rudder of the ship for a group the size of the LA Dodgers in Major League Baseball. I think you'd be hard-pressed to fairly call that being marginalized or victimized.
Well, Pastor, thank you so much for joining us. Certainly very, very heated topic for so many people right now. We're grateful for your time.
Thank you so much.
Now, thank you so much. Nick Wolny, founder of Hefty Media Group, which is certified by the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. I would like to give you a chance just to respond to the pastor, and then we can start our conversation. What are your thoughts?
Well, first, I completely disagree with the assertion that LGBTQ people are not marginalized and that they're in power. And we can just look to the political landscape. So far in 2023, there have been over 500 anti-LGBTQ bills passed in different states or being pushed to be passed in different states. And that makes a really, really big impact. I think that's why there's such a magnifying glass over this year's Pride Month. And as different organizations attempt to celebrate Pride and to channel resources to these different groups, I think what's also important to remember is that the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, they've been a group that's been around since 1979. There was even an article in the Catholic Review 2 days ago interviewing nuns who said, yes, well, I don't quite agree with their garb, I don't quite agree with their outfits, but I agree with how they show up and how they're serving their community. And so I think that's what's important to keep in mind, and keeping these culture wars at bay, we need to focus on the facts in this situation.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.